At the beginning of the story, we see a woman named Aaliyah looking confused and flustered. A little boy with tears in his eyes is hugging her, pleading for her not to divorce his brother. The little boy is the Grand Prince of Indigencia, named Caleb Indigencia, belonging to the royal and powerful family. Aaliyah already knows that this little boy is the most powerful villain in this novel. She wonders why this boy is clinging to her so tightly. Aaliyah is also crying as Caleb begs her not to leave him and his brother. Caleb asks Aaliyah if she doesn't want to live with him and his brother. Aaliyah replied, "No, that's not at all." But she looks at someone who is standing in front of her and says that her contract marriage is ending soon. That's the reason behind their divorce. Cedric Kettisel is the Grand Duke of Indigencia. Cedric asks his brother not to put trouble on Aaliyah. But Caleb is crying and he calls Aaliyah emotionally and says that Cedric is incomplete without her. Caleb says that without Aaliyah, his brother will become completely foolish or he might even harm himself. Caleb feels scared at night without Aaliyah. Caleb is crying and grabs her arms, telling her that he feels like there is a monster under his bed. His cute eyes are filled with emotions as he requests her not to divorce his brother. She replies to him, "Your brother is the strongest person in this world." She knows that his wounds are caused by more than 100 soldiers, and she also knows that Caleb is scared of the monster under his bed, which is the representation of the great evil that will transform into limbs. We get to know that Caleb is going to be a wizard who will control the darkness. Suddenly Cedric shouts, "Stop it, Caleb." Aaliyah looks uncomfortable. Aaliyah angrily replies to Cedric, asking why he is getting angry at a little child. She imagines that she should make Caleb comfortable. Then Cedric gets angrier and he holds Caleb's shoulder and pulls him harshly from Aaliyah's arms. Aaliyah shockingly shouts at Cedric, asking what he is doing with a small child. Cedric helplessly says that these things don't change anything. Caleb slaps his hands away and moves away from Cedric. Caleb angrily says that Cedric is hurting him and abuses him by saying that he is an idiot, and he is the most foolish person he ever met in his life. He asks Cedric why he is leaving Aaliyah, how he can let her go from his life easily. That's not right. Caleb feels rude about Cedric's behavior towards Aaliyah. Cedric helplessly said that he is not doing all this willingly. They made a contract a year before marriage. Then suddenly Aaliyah shouts at both of them and asks them why they are fighting with each other. Even Aaliyah is shocked at why all this is happening. In the past, one day, and Aaliyah opens her eyes and she finds herself in an unknown body. She is thinking, what is going on with me? What is happening? When she closed her eyes and opened them again, Aaliyah realized that she is reincarnated, and she had no memory of the person she possessed. Aaliyah managed to find out simple information through her diary. In conclusion, she got to know that this world is a novel and she is Aaliyah, who is 23 years old. And this was the only information she knows about. Seeing as she doesn't remember much, she is thinking that in this novel, the author created her and forgot about her. She feels so happy. Aaliyah sees outside that there is nothing but trees and mountains around her. Aaliyah is totally surprised and she feels that she should go for a walk outside. Aaliyah is speaking with herself by thinking that how this world is so kind. Aaliyah is confused about what character she resembles, but Aaliyah is happy and she feels better that she has worked it out better. Aaliyah is so curious about this life and she is thinking that this life is a better opportunity for her. Then Aaliyah ran out of the house and explored the forest some more. Aaliyah feels that she doesn't have to worry about many things because she is not the female who is leading this story. And Aaliyah is happy that she is pioneering a wasteland where there is nothing. She feels so happy and free in the forest. Suddenly Aaliyah hears some noise from the forest and she sees that an animal is chasing a little kid. Aaliyah shouts at the kid and asks him to come to her. The kid is shocked and he is thinking about what he has to do at this instance. Without thinking much, the boy runs towards the girl and she hides the boy behind her to protect him. She doesn't know if she can fight this wolf or not, but the only thing on her mind is that she has to protect this kid. The wolf was looking very big and dangerous, but she feels that there is still a chance she can defeat it because this world is in a novel, so anything can happen. She leans towards the boy and kicks out the wolf, but we get to see that a simple kick of hers was so strong that it made the wolf fly away in the air. Even she was stunned by seeing her power in this situation. She was all flustered and confused because the wolf was lying unconscious on the ground. The little boy asks her if the wolf is dead or not. She smiled and replied, "It's okay. Even I was very scared at the moment." The boy looks at her with stunning eyes and thanks her for saving his life. The boy promises her that he will definitely repay her kindness. But as soon as she looks at him, she is shocked. She doesn't trust her eyes and gets a flashback of a little boy who looks similar to the one standing in front of her. She kneels in front of the boy and asks him, "Yun, is that you?" She feels Yun is right in front of her and she can't believe her eyes. She is shocked. She asks that little boy if he is Yun or not. She is stunned and is thinking, how is this possible? Yun is there in front of me. Then suddenly, that little boy replies, who is Yun? My name is not Yun. She looks at his eyes and regains her consciousness, realizing that he is not Yun. The little boy introduces himself as the Archduke who belongs to the Ebersent imperial family. His name is Caleb Indigentia. Aaliyah is shocked and suddenly realizes that the puzzle pieces in her mind are connecting, and now she is getting to know what is actually happening to her. She remembers that this child is from the novel which tells her about the parents of Yun. She comes to know that this little boy is the dark side of the novel she read before. In Aaliyah's life, she had only one family, that was Yun. Then she starts to express the story of her life from which she had suffered earlier. Yun was her little brother, and he was suffering from a rare illness. He had to be hospitalized all the time. Despite his young age, he always endured the treatment with courage. Aaliyah was a member of the Taekwondo team, and she promised Yun that she would definitely win the gold medal for him. Then, Yun mischievously smiled and said that he was looking forward to it and he was curious to see his sister's achievement. Time passed quickly while she was preparing for the Olympics, and after lots of hardship, she won the gold medal for Yun. Aaliyah was very happy and she thought, from now on, everything will be alright, we don't need to worry about the money. She decided to take Yun to the best hospital for his treatment. Aaliyah and Yun would happily live for a long life as she had planned. But, unfortunately, Yun passed away, and his will was not to inform his sister before her match was over. She was totally broken. She cried a lot because Yun was the only one in her family and now he also passed away. After losing Yun, she ignored all the reporters and journalists who approached her because she was scared to face reality, and she used to get addicted to the internet. Then one day, she saw an advertisement passing by in which she saw a web novel. The name of the novel is I Won't Let You Sleep This Time. When she saw the photorealistic cover, she was shocked. She couldn't take her eyes off it, especially that dark face among the people on the cover because it was totally identical to Yun's face. She got addicted to the novel and she fell in love with that novel while looking at Yun in that novel. Then she realized that Caleb is the dark character who resembles Yun and is now standing in front of her eyes. Caleb replies, "It looks like you mistook me for someone named Yun and saved me." Aaliyah felt disappointment because he wasn't Yun and she apologized for the mistake. But she noticed that Caleb's voice is as similar as Yun's. However, he said that since she is his benefactor, she can feel free to talk to him comfortably. Caleb is thinking that if he hadn't been hurt, he could have gotten rid of this injury with his magical power. Aaliyah is stressed that Caleb just said that he is injured. She asked him if he was injured. Caleb agrees with her. She feels bad for him. She sees blood on his hand, but Caleb claims that this is not a big deal for him at all. Caleb didn't feel any pain from that instance. She was tense that this wound will definitely cause Caleb pain. She replied, "No, wait. How can a wound be insignificant when it's bleeding like this?" She also noticed that there are some red marks on his palms and she asks him if this injury is from a previous injury. She asks him to follow her to her small cottage where she is living, and she used a small piece of her dress to tie it around his palm. Then Caleb thanks her. She took Caleb to the road which goes to her cottage and she sees that Caleb is limping a little. Then she notices that his leg is also injured. Caleb is thinking that this injury is normal for him and he doesn't feel pain anymore. It's just a little sprain from when the fox was chasing him. Then Aaliyah says that if he feels hurt or pain on that injury, he should tell her about it. She is tense that these two injuries will be very painful for that little boy. But Caleb is continuously thinking, why is this girl taking so much care of me? Is there anything wrong with her? Or does she feel something for me? She suddenly asks him, what happened? You look depressed. She started thinking like Caleb is thinking that Aaliyah is scolding him or what. But she is only worried about him. Suddenly, she realizes the content of a novel which she had read, coming to her mind that this is the bad phase of Caleb and he is a disputed loser in the story. And because of some reasons, his subordinates didn't like him. Caleb belongs to the royal family and he always adhered to strict standards, which should maturely, perfectly, and won't disappoint others around him. She was stressed that why people hate Caleb. Even she didn't have any idea about it because she has not properly addressed the novel. She thinks because of his family standards, Caleb is definitely feeling disappointed while growing up. This is so cruel that he is still a little child. And she makes sure that Caleb doesn't have to worry because she really doesn't mind at all. And she suddenly sits down in front of Caleb and asks him to come on her back so she can give him a piggyback ride. She is doing all this because his leg is injured. But Caleb feels embarrassed about how he should hop on the lady's back. He claims that this injury is not that much for him and he can take care of himself. He replied that he is not that sick. Aaliyah feels it's a big deal because she sees Yun in Caleb's face. This sister is going to carry this little boy on her back because she wants to do so. Caleb is thinking that if he had a wand, he would be able to use magic right away on the wounded area. And she took him to her cottage and she offers him cocoa powder to eat, and she took a hot water for herself. Caleb thanks her for the cocoa powder. She says not to be thankful for every little thing. She already knows that this little boy is going to make this world fall into the abyss of fear in the future. Then she realizes why she is thinking about the future. She decides to pretend positively at best with Caleb. She is worried that she has to send him away once his wound heals up. She notices some sound from Caleb. She asks him if he is hungry, but Caleb denies it. She asks him when did he eat anything last time. Caleb replies with some disappointment that he has been wandering the woods since early morning. Aaliyah is shocked. This little boy has starved all day and still he is not accepting to eat something. She says to him that she will make some dinner for him to eat, but Caleb denies it because he used to skip dinner since last month. His literature teacher told him not to have dinner always because if he gains weight, then his appearance will look bad at his first appearance. She is shocked to hear this. She gets furious and thinks, how can they make him go on a diet when he was growing up? She doesn't understand how they can make this little child, who is only 6 and 7 years old, starve. Then she realizes that when she carried him on her back, Caleb was so light. She feels that the etiquette teacher is a crazy bastard. She decides that she will feed him lots of delicious food and then she'll send him back. Aaliyah is thinking that Caleb's teacher is a crazy bastard, and she has decided that she will make lots of delicious food for Caleb. She starts cooking. Then she realizes that the only ingredients she has in the house are potatoes, and she feels regret about this. Caleb is shocked at how she makes so many dishes in such a short period of time. Caleb is thinking that Aaliyah makes food so fast it doesn't look like magic was used. Aaliyah is used to this cooking practice because she is alone at home, so she only has to make food for herself. Aaliyah asks Caleb to try the dishes she has made. Caleb is still confused about whether he should eat dinner or not. She is angry at how a teacher could ask a child to lose weight at such a young age. Aaliyah gets up angrily and tells Caleb to eat. It's really okay to eat. And now he slowly trusts her and takes a little bite. The pepper is somewhat strong, but he doesn't mind because Caleb is happy to have such delicious food. Aaliyah asks him to try potato pancakes and tells him that everyone craves these when it rains. Aaliyah offers him a bite, but he replies that he will eat it by himself only. Aaliyah feeds him food by her own hand. Then she asks him how the food is. Caleb replies that the food is amazing, and he will remember it when it rains. But Caleb is used to eating the food faster, so she tells him not to eat too quickly, and she asks him if he needs more, she'll make it for Caleb. She thought she would send him quickly, but she decides to bring more ingredients from outside tomorrow. The next morning, Caleb suddenly wakes up and feels regret that he has overslept. He is so punctual about timing, and he realizes that this is Aaliyah's cabin and he is thinking that this place is not the Grand Duchy. He shouldn't have overslept, but his tired body is refreshed. He feels interested in how he fell asleep like this. He remembers some days that he thinks he hasn't slept in peace since that day. He is sad and frightened to remember that day. It was no less than a nightmare for him. Then suddenly Aaliyah enters the cabin and asks Caleb if he slept well. Caleb replies that he slept so soundly that he couldn't speak in the morning. Caleb asks her where she has been. She replies that she went to bring some groceries. Aaliyah is planning to make some meat stew for lunch. Caleb is confused about what Aaliyah is talking about. Then he starts thinking that she can kill a wolf with a single kick, she can heal injuries skillfully, and she also has a simple appearance which is dazzling. She doesn't seem like an ordinary person at all. Besides, she is good at cooking. Then suddenly Aaliyah asks him, what's wrong? Caleb was thinking to know more about Aaliyah, but he didn't tell her about himself either. Caleb says to Aaliyah that she should wake him up on time from tomorrow. Aaliyah replies, why? Caleb is not supposed to oversleep. Aaliyah scolds him and asks him what will happen if a child oversleeps. That's a normal thing. It doesn't matter that much. Caleb says that he is not an ordinary child. He is a Grand Duke. Aaliyah says that this isn't even a Grand Duke castle. Until Caleb returns to the Grand Duchy, he is just Caleb. And if he wants to sleep here, he can sleep or eat delicious food and have fun. She puts her hands on his head and reminds him that should he got that. Looking at Aaliyah, he remembers how strong she is, even though she is good at healing and cooking too. Caleb feels that Aaliyah is so kind. Aaliyah patted him without realizing and she asks him whether he is ready to have lunch or not. She tells him to sit comfortably, but Caleb was thinking why Aaliyah is calling him just Caleb. Then he remembers that his teacher told him that he is a Grand Duke and he has to act like an adult all the time, even though he is not feeling comfortable. But this everything is for Caleb only. Caleb knows that he shouldn't do what Aaliyah says, but he is confused about why he is feeling happy for her carefree nature. Then suddenly Aaliyah says that they don't have much cocoa powder, but Caleb is comfortable to have chamomile too. Aaliyah asks him about today's meal. Does he like it or not? Caleb replies, yes. Aaliyah was glad to hear this. Then Caleb says that Aaliyah is amazing and he asks her if it's because of the child named Yoon. It seems like someone she has known for a long time. Caleb wants to know more about Aaliyah, and he wants to tell her about himself too. Aaliyah thinks that Caleb wants to get closer to her, and she is confused about what to do next. Then she decides to do her best until Caleb is here, but she is aware not to cross the line. She asks, tell me, Caleb. She doesn't trust herself that how can she do this. She thinks that she is only listening to his story. She is scared to get involved much because she knows in future Caleb is going to be a ruthless villain. Caleb thinks for a moment and tells Aaliyah that he has one older brother. She was expecting him to talk about his older brother. But in the original novel, namely, I Won't Put You to Sleep This Time, we see a name that no one can forget after reading once. Cedric Kettisel Indigentia. He was adopted by the Indigentia family when he was 10 years old. He cast the gravity magic accurately at the mere age of 13. Gravity magic was so difficult to cast, even for an 18-year-old. No one was able to wield it for the last 120 years. Even the Emperor's scepter was broken. So, he became the supreme being in the novel. After all this brief introduction, no other information was revealed. Then Caleb says that his brother came into his family as the adopted son. They were not related by blood, but he loves and respects his brother so much. But, with some disappointments, he reveals that last year his brother was cursed. Aaliyah got shocked by hearing this. Caleb says that the curse can only be lifted by the caster, but he hasn't found that caster yet. Aaliyah agrees with the same. She already knows about that and she remembers this fairy curse, and even she knows that this is the only opportunity for Caleb to turn into darkness. In the original novel, we get to know that the beloved Marinus family was Daphne. Prince Renoa was the epicenter empire who has appeared as the main character. But there is the development of events in this novel where, one day, a fairy appeared in front of Renoa. He says that he will slowly put him into eternal sleep. The fairy tried to curse him to sleep forever. At that moment, Daphne appeared in front of Renoa to protect him from the curse, and then the curse was deflected with magic. Then after that, they fell in love with each other. They hold hands of each other by looking into each other's eyes. But, as time passes, when she woke up in this novel, she saw that Daphne had already saved Renoa, and Cedric was cursed afterwards. The curse can be stopped. It's not like there is no way to stop the curse. Then Caleb thinks if it's the Sanctuary of Knowledge. The Sanctuary of Knowledge is the place where all the knowledge of the world is located. Among all these three families that are the pillars, namely Maishalats of the physical, Marinus of water, Indigentia of gravity. All these places are this much special that only authorized people have access to enter. Aaliyah knows that to continue the family lineage or to become the head of the family, she thought that it's difficult. Only those who swore loyalty to the family could enter. Caleb says that the fastest way for his brother to enter the Sanctuary of Knowledge is to become the Grand Duke. But his brother refuses to inherit the title and he is trying to install Caleb as the Archduke. His brother says that Caleb don't have to worry, but Caleb is worried that he won't be able to break the curse. So, there will be so many checks until he becomes the Grand Duke and still he has a lot to do. But he will try to enter the Sanctuary of Knowledge only for his brother. Aaliyah thought that if Cedric will be around when Caleb becomes the Grand Duke, his condition is continuously becoming weak day by day. Then Caleb quickly arrived at the Sanctuary of Knowledge. Then he searched for all over the information he could find. But he didn't just not know how to break the curse, but he couldn't find a single clue about that fairy. But one day, Caleb heard that the fairy is captured who placed the curse by the imperial family. Caleb rushed to the dungeon where the fairy was, but the fairy was already dead who is the only one who can lift Cedric's curse. Caleb thought that there was someone who is plotting a conspiracy in the imperial family. When he sees all these things, he started to distrust the imperial family and developed deep hatred towards them. He dabbled in the forbidden black magic and made a contract with the great devil only for the sake of his brother and for the destruction of the imperial family. She thinks that she can't stop Caleb and she can't even change the future. Then she comes to realize that Caleb is only the main character of this novel who is completely different from Aaliyah who is extra in this novel. And she knows that Caleb is not young. But still until Caleb is in her cabin she used to comfort him that he can do it, becoming an archduke and saving his brother. And even she tells him that if he needs any help from Aaliyah, she'll help him as much she can. After a few days, a week passed away. Caleb was not that much free. When Aaliyah saw him for the first time, he used to be silent in front of her and he was so cautious. But now, he has changed. He feels free and noticeably changed. His face is glowing, and he feels happy. He becomes so expressive. Now he is freely expressing his emotions. Caleb found one rabbit in the forest and he takes him to Aaliyah. She says that the rabbit is so cute. Caleb says that he found this rabbit when he was walking in the forest. But Aaliyah feels that she saw this rabbit somewhere before. Caleb wants to take the rabbit to Aaliyah's cabin. When rabbit see Aaliyah, he jumped down and ran away. She is thinking that why the rabbit runs away when he sees Aaliyah, then she guesses that the rabbit is surprised because she approached him suddenly. Aaliyah is going to a cabin to make some snacks, and she asked him to. Caleb wants to go with Aaliyah while holding hands with her. Aaliyah feels cute that Caleb is becoming close to her. Caleb's wounds are also healing day by day, and in a few days, Caleb will go back to his grand duchy. She is thinking that why Caleb's elder brother don't come to find Caleb because so much time passed. On the other hand, Cedric was stressed about where his brother would be, and he is wondering where Caleb is. Then, accidentally, a warning letter arrives from the imperial family. Someone requests Cedric to stop the gravity magic. Cedric, who is the crown prince of Indigentia, listens as a person in front of him tells him that the castle gate is frozen, and the vassals cannot go outside now. That person is the chief advisor of the Indigentia Grand Duchy, namely Edwin Polinoa. He says to Cedric that there are so many complaints, and if it goes on, the damage is enough to affect the farmland on the outskirts of the capital. Edwin is worried about the destruction, but Cedric replies that he is controlling everything on his own. Then Cedric says to Edwin that he is clear about his decision, and if Edwin wants to stop this blizzard, then he has to find the Archduke. Cedric is tense because a week has passed since the Archduke went missing. Cedric feels it's weird because he doesn't even know if the Archduke is dead or alive. The vassals are only concerned about the cold weather. Edwin is speechless. Cedric slaps his hands on the table and tells Edwin to inform everyone. He requests to bring Caleb as soon as possible, and he doesn't care about the vassals, whether they freeze to death or not. Edwin agrees with the same. Cedric thinks that the Archduke is missing, and they are saying it's just because of the cold. He is still confused about what is going on. He is stressed because he doesn't even know where Caleb is and what he is doing right now. No traces of Caleb were found, and Cedric is so stressed, continuously thinking where the hell Caleb is. In the next scene, Aaliyah tells Caleb that now he is washed up and asks him to sit down. She tells him to put bandages on his wounds before going to bed. Caleb feels okay because he had changed it last time only, but Aaliyah tells him to change it again. Otherwise, the wound might get worse. Caleb puts bandages on the wound and shows his hands to Aaliyah. She sees that the wound is healing properly without any problems, and he thinks that the wound will heal completely in just a few days. Caleb feels sad and broken, but Aaliyah doesn't mean that Caleb will go back to the Archduke quickly. She resembles that she is happy because this serious wound is healing properly. And Aaliyah scolds him to go to sleep, and Aaliyah also feels sad by thinking all those things. When they both were sleeping, Caleb is thinking, when his hands get healed, he will be able to use magic. And due to this, he has to return to the castle. And this is but obvious. Cedric was thinking about why Caleb is doing all this. Caleb replies that becoming an Archduke proves that he is loyal to his royal family, and that he can easily enter the Sanctuary of Knowledge, even if Cedric gives up the right to inherit the title of Grand Archduke. Then Cedric tells him that he already told him that he won't become an Archduke. Cedric knows that Caleb is the only one who will lead the Indigentia family. That's the reason Cedric is refusing. But Caleb knows that this thing takes time for him to become the Grand Duke. Even Caleb is only thinking about how he can break the curse of his brother as soon. Cedric told him not to worry about because he has another plan for the same. Cedric tells him not to worry about the curse and Sanctuary of Knowledge though. He tells him to think about what he wants to do. Caleb thinks, is Cedric getting married? And even he hears that some maids were discussing that Cedric could get married. And they were also thinking, why Cedric is suddenly getting married. Even they also know that Cedric doesn't have any clue about the curse. Now, Caleb knows that the only thing left in the palace is the Sanctuary of Knowledge. But however, Cedric gave up his right to succeed as the Grand Duke, and really, marriage is the only way to pledge the loyalty of the family. Then again Caleb hears something. Finding a spouse will be difficult, and the rumors going around are that the curse is contagious. Caleb is shocked by hearing this. He is thinking, who is spreading all these ridiculous rumors? He is not sure if these rumors are true or not. But everyone knows that he is anxious about his work too. Caleb is thinking, is there any lady who wants to marry Cedric? Even Caleb knows that his brother knows about all these rumors, but Caleb is tense that why his brother is not saying all this to him. Caleb started thinking negatively. Does Cedric care about him, or does he think that Caleb is not that trustworthy? But Caleb doesn't know anything, but he would feel nice if his brother was more honest with him. Caleb is going to follow what Aaliyah taught him. Caleb thinks if that lady were Aaliyah who is going to marry his brother, then she wouldn't help his brother. If they get married, Cedric will be able to prove his loyalty to the family, and even he is able to enter the sanctuary of knowledge too. And even if Cedric finds a way to break the curse and divorce Aaliyah, then Caleb will reveal that he is Aaliyah's supporter. Then they can stay together in the great castle. Then Caleb won't feel lonely in the grand castle anymore. Then Caleb realizes that what he is really thinking. How can he think such selfish thoughts, even though this is what he is actually alone? With some tears in his eyes, Caleb decides not to cause any trouble to her, and when his hand gets fully healed, he will return alone to the castle to become the Grand Duke. On the next day, Aaliyah asks Caleb what he wants to eat for lunch today, and she is excited to make some delicious food for him. Caleb is depressed, and he answers that he can have whatever. Aaliyah thinks that she is stupid for not noticing that Caleb is still in this state since this morning. Aaliyah knows she can't become weak-hearted. She has to keep in mind that there is nothing she can do. Aaliyah asks him, I'm thinking of making grilled fish and potato soup for lunch. She asks him to get some lemons from outside. Caleb agrees with the same and he left outside to buy the lemons. Aaliyah notices that Caleb's steps are weak, and she feels like Caleb's mood gets better after breathing in some fresh air. She will go on a walk later with Caleb. Then suddenly, a man with a black outfit comes in front of Caleb, and he moves his hands towards Caleb, saying, Finally, I found you. Suddenly, Aaliyah hits that man with a pan, throwing it at him, and scolds Caleb to come to her. She says that this man looks suspicious. Is he trying to kidnap Caleb? Then Caleb shouts with a tense voice, Hyung. Aaliyah is shocked by hearing this. That man is nothing but his elder brother, Cedric. Caleb asks him if he is okay or not. Aaliyah feels embarrassed that she threw a pan toward Caleb's brother. Now she realizes that the person she hit with a pan is Caleb's brother, Cedric. She says sorry to Caleb because of her mistake. She says that first, she should have checked who it was, and her body moved on its own. Cedric is shocked by hearing this moved. Caleb replies that he understands that Aaliyah was scared. That's why she did this to Cedric. And Caleb says that Cedric will understand once Caleb explains the whole situation. And even Hyung is a strong person, so he will be fine with a small injury like this. Aaliyah is embarrassed and thinks that this person is covering for her so desperately. Caleb says that they have to get some water and a towel first. And even Caleb is murmuring about how Cedric found him so quickly. Aaliyah asks him, Did you say something? Caleb says that he'll go and get some water and a towel. Aaliyah thinks that Caleb said something or she heard something wrong. She is thinking, did Cedric wake up? She should have made Caleb stay and gone herself. She is supposed to check whether he is sleeping or not, or if he is sleep-talking. She thinks that it looks uncomfortable. But when she tried to touch him, suddenly Cedric grabs her hands, asking her what she is doing right now. Aaliyah was shocked because Cedric is looking at her with anger. Cedric calls her a pervert and asks her about her motive towards him. Aaliyah is shocked, wondering what he is talking about. Cedric thinks that Aaliyah's motive is to kidnap Caleb, and she is trying to use his magic so this place won't get found. Aaliyah scolds at him and says that he is quite bold. It seems to be a big misunderstanding. She runs towards the door to bring Caleb. Then Cedric replies, Where do you think you're running off to? Cedric uses his gravity magic to stop Aaliyah, and suddenly Aaliyah falls down, unable to move. Aaliyah replies that she wasn't trying to escape. Aaliyah says that this atmosphere is not a joke. Caleb enters the room and throws a blanket on Cedric, shouting at him for what he is doing to Aaliyah. And Caleb tells him to undo that magic and apologize to Aaliyah. Aaliyah is my savior. Cedric is shocked by hearing this, and even Caleb says that when he was getting chased by a wolf, Aaliyah saved him, and even if Aaliyah hadn't helped him out, he would have been eaten already by the wolf. Caleb asks Cedric how could he do this to someone who saved Caleb. Cedric replies that he is already disappointed in Caleb. Aaliyah thinks that Cedric's expression didn't change much, but he is shocked right now. Caleb asks her isn't she okay or not. Then Cedric asks Caleb if she didn't kidnap or threaten him, and if Caleb were able to use magic, then why didn't he come back to the palace right away? If Caleb were able to create a barrier, then teleporting would have been easy. Aaliyah shockingly looks at Cedric and replies that Caleb was using magic. Aaliyah said that yesterday when she checked, the wound was still there. Isn't Caleb unable to use magic since his hand was injured and didn't have his wand? Caleb feels embarrassed, and he knows that's the reason he did this, because he wanted to be with Aaliyah for a bit longer. Aaliyah was stunned by hearing this. Caleb says sorry for what he did with Aaliyah because he tricked her. Caleb says that usually he can't use magic when his hand is injured. It's true. But even though his hand is still injured, still Caleb could use magic. And even he had to go back once he is able to use magic again. He already knows all these things, but he hides all this from Aaliyah, and agreed with the same in front of Aaliyah. Caleb asks her isn't she angry that he lied to her. Then Aaliyah hugs him and says that why would she be angry? He doesn't need to apologize. Caleb cries. He never cried in the original story. Caleb asks her if she feels happy when he is with Aaliyah. She replies that it's fun being with him. Caleb asks her, or she'll be sad when they separate. Aaliyah replies that she will be sad because they had spent so much time together in the past week. But why Caleb keeps asking the obvious. Then he hesitantly asks her if she wants to go back with Caleb to the Grand Duke's palace. And even he asks if Aaliyah can marry his brother. Aaliyah was so shocked by hearing this. In the next scene, Cedric asks Aaliyah if Caleb has fallen asleep. She says, yes. Aaliyah's thoughts race. So much has happened in such a short period of time, which has been so hectic for her. But she needs to get something first. She thinks, should I quickly make something first? Then she looks behind and is stunned to see Cedric taking his shirt off. She thinks Cedric's shirt got wet, but he doesn't usually take his clothes off so easily. Is a noble allowed to do this? Then Cedric asks her for a drink. She gives him the drink. She is stunned by looking at his muscles and body. She thinks Cedric looks better than the guys who are preparing for the national team. But she needs to calm down. Cedric calls her and apologizes for his behavior just now. But Aaliyah is the only one who threw the pan at him. But that's because she was trying to protect Caleb. Aaliyah tells him to sit down and put the cloth on. She is thinking, since Cedric didn't appear a lot in the story, but she is always curious about his personality. She thinks that Cedric is a kind person under that sharp and cold appearance. Now Aaliyah starts thinking about the thing which Caleb asked her about her marriage with Cedric. She asks Cedric, why do you think Caleb suddenly brought up the marriage? Cedric replies it would be because of his curse. Aaliyah thinks, the fairy's curse. Are they connected? Caleb seems to think that the answer to the curse is in the century of knowledge. Aaliyah asks Cedric if he has to become the head of the family in order to have access to the century of knowledge, or if he swears loyalty to the royal family during a ceremony. Can't Cedric hold the ceremony right now? Cedric replies, only people who are related by blood to the royal family are allowed to host this ceremony, and he is their son, but he is not related by blood. Aaliyah says, however, he will be able to hold the ceremony once he gets married, which would mean that he would be able to go to the sanctuary of knowledge. Cedric says that Caleb must have known this and asks Aaliyah to marry Cedric. Cedric says that he understands that it's very complicated for Aaliyah. It looks like Caleb trusts and relies on Aaliyah a lot. Cedric has seen Caleb like this for the first time. Aaliyah says there are a lot of people who would like to marry Cedric. Cedric says that there is no one because there is a rumor that his curse is contagious. Aaliyah thinks, does it happen in the story? Cedric says that there is no need to worry. That's a rumor spread by someone with bad intentions. But since it's still worrying Aaliyah, he will go back to the Grand Duke Palace as soon as Caleb wakes up. Aaliyah is done hearing this because Caleb wants to be with Aaliyah for a little bit longer. That's why he did all this. Aaliyah angrily says, excuse me, may I ask why you are trying to make Caleb Grand Duke? Cedric asks her, are you worried for Caleb? Then she replied, of course, that's one of the reasons, but she wants to know what he is thinking. Then Cedric starts the whole story, and he says that for some unknown reasons, Caleb was kidnapped while he was just an infant, and his parents looked for 4 years. One day they got some information from an orphanage quite far away from the palace, so of course, he rushed there immediately. However, Caleb was the only one who returned to the palace. Then Aaliyah thinks that she remembers the Indigentia assassination case. While coming back from the orphanage, they were attacked by someone, and everyone expected that Caleb was murdered. But unfortunately, indigencies was the case. Cedric must have avoided the topic on purpose, which was why his relatives developed a hatred for him, saying why they looked for him and caused a mess when he was here. Cedric says that there seem to be other reasons, but in this situation, Cedric cannot take back the Grand Duke's succession rights which he gave up. Cedric says that Caleb must have become the Grand Duke in order to protect himself. That instead of believing that there will always be people who will help him, it would be much better to make him stronger so that he can protect himself. There are other ways, so it's okay if he doesn't enter the sanctuary of knowledge. Then Aaliyah thinks that all the way he expresses it seems to be wrong. She can tell that Cedric wants Caleb to survive. But she says that Cedric, Caleb won't be able to leave the way you want him to. She shouldn't have to listen to him. She thinks to herself that why she keeps doing this, there is nothing she can do even if she listens to him. She thinks that even if Cedric and she were to get married right now and were to have access to the century of knowledge, there is no way to break the curse. There is only one way left, which is to go find the fairy who put the curse on Cedric. Aaliyah thinks, how did she not think of this sooner? She has read the book, so she knows what happened next. Not long after Caleb becomes the Grand Duke, the imperial family ends up capturing the fairy who was summoned in order to kidnap the female lead. So what would happen if we capture that fairy before the imperial family and break Cedric's curse? No, we don't know how we ended up dying, so it will be too late if we wait for that. We must move faster than the imperial family, and in order to do that, they must be able to recognize the fairy. And she definitely saw its face and name at the end of the book. All she needs to do is remember. Then suddenly, Cedric asks Aaliyah what's happening. Then she said, Cedric, I found another way to break the curse. Cedric is shocked. What is the other way? Then she says, if we stick to this plan, you won't need to get married, and the story won't go the way it's supposed to. So the other way, she was trying to say that, but she was maintaining some suspense. When she tried to tell the plan to set it suddenly, she falls down, and she forgets everything. Then Cedric asks her, why did you suddenly fall down? And he was continuously asking Aaliyah what happened. Can you hear me? But Aaliyah was shocked. She was thinking, how can she forget all this? Did she forget because it was only said once in the novel or something else? Silver hair that drapes on the pink is tent as it goes down inside a rare pink gem. No way. The fairy who caused Cedric's curse is Aaliyah only. Aaliyah has to focus on the problem which is in front of her. Then after Aaliyah, Cedric, and Caleb, three of them go to the Grand Duke Palace. Aaliyah asks why the palace is frozen. Aaliyah thought that if she's able to stay by Caleb's side, then she will be very happy for Caleb. However, Aaliyah is only the culprit. Yeah, of course, it happened before she was sent here, but it still doesn't change the fact that she is Aaliyah. So how could she tell all this to Caleb? That she wants to stay with him knowing all of this, that deception. So she must get rid of the affection towards him. She was affected by Caleb so much because she was pretending Caleb is young. Then Caleb wakes up and he puts his hand towards India and says, let's go. Earlier, Aaliyah was depressed, and she was thinking even though she retired, Caleb, who had to mature early, Caleb's attitude just now made her relieved. India thinks that it's not that she won't consider Caleb's proposal. She really does have fun with Caleb, not only because he's similar to you but because she has grown closer to Kali himself. If she ever manages to recover her memories, then she would be able to stop both Cedric and her death until Yuan even turn dark, meaning the world won't be in danger. Then Cedric says to Caleb, it's going to be difficult. Caleb replied, why? Densely faced, of course, it would be easier to resolve the vessels if they do that. But what about Aaliyah's opinion? They have to take Aaliyah's opinion about their marriage. Aaliyah said that she also likes being with him, but she never actually said that. Then Cedric says, let's move to the palace first. I heard, sorry, we need to discuss a bit more about the requirements of our contract marriage. Cedric agrees with that, but I don't think that she could act like nothing's wrong. However, Caleb says that Aaliyah won't need to come back here. She doesn't need to leave the palace just because Aaliyah and Cedric get a divorce. She can live with Caleb after she's divorced. Aaliyah shocked by hearing this. Caleb says that you're gonna need an identity anyways, right? So as the Archduke, he will become Aaliyah's official guardian. Then Aaliyah can continue to live in the palace as a ward of the Grand Duke. Aaliyah is turned. She feels like something changed about Caleb. If that happens, she will be happy. Cedric and Caleb will be happy too. Then Aaliyah realizes that she tried her best not to get involved with them at first. But now she knows that she is the fairy. She has to help them. It doesn't matter for her if this world is from a book. For her, this has already become her reality. Then Cedric says, however, you should know that this won't be an ordinary marriage. We are going to do a contract marriage. The time period will be until my curse is lifted. And once that happens, Aaliyah will come back here. Caleb is shocked. He says that it should be a contract marriage. I heard that he would be hurt if they told him that they would break up beforehand. Then in the story, in the end, Aaliyah would be thrown into the dungeon of the imperial family and die from an unknown cause if it was his disease, or maybe she will get killed by someone who had a deep heart towards her. It doesn't matter if she runs away. She knows that she ends up dying anyways. In this situation, there is only one way for Aaliyah to survive. She decides that after marrying Cedric, keep an eye out of the curse, break Cedric's curse, and then go somewhere where no one can find her and live happily by herself. But she knows that she can't do anything. How her one good thing is that Aaliyah always appeared in the black cloth and no one knows the fairy's identity, so that's why Caleb couldn't recognize them. She thought of running away, but the story has already changed a lot from the original story, so if Caleb were to find out Aaliyah was the fairy, someone in the black costume scolds, no way. Aaliyah asks her that you were the fairy. The fairy says there was enough time for Aaliyah to break the curse. How dare she trick them? Die. Aaliyah thinks that so if she organizes the situation right now, Aaliyah is the only reason for everything's problem, which means she can break Cedric's curse and undo all these problems. But right now, she can't do all those things. That's impossible for her in this situation because she doesn't have a single memory of earlier. She only remembers her name and her age. She doesn't know a single thing about magic. Then in the next scene, Cedric surprisingly says, "What?" Means he asks, "Is that true? Are you really going to marry my brother?" Aaliyah replied, "Yes, I am going to become a sister-in-law and go to the Imperial Palace with you." Caleb replies, "That's great." Aaliyah looks at Cedric's face. He looks quite nervous. It's understandable, though. Even she was shocked. That's why Cedric is shocked, why he is nervous. Then Cedric says, "Aaliyah, the other way you mean." That's Aaliyah indirectly proposing to him. "You should marry me." Very sudden proposal goes to Cedric was shocked, and he was literally surprised rather than to be happy. On the next day, they reach the palace, and Aaliyah is shocked by looking at the palace. This palace is so shiny, she was literally stunned. She did come in here excited, but now that she thinks about it, she really doesn't know anything about this place. She was surprised by the palace's luxuriousness and even doubtful whether she is able to do all these things. Cedric says that they have to have a vessel meeting. Aaliyah was shocked and asked, "A vessel meeting?" Then Cedric says, "Yes." Caleb has returned to the palace and they also need to discuss their marriage. Cedric says that if she doesn't have any other plans for today, then she may go and rest in her room, and her maid will guide her to her room if she waits here. Aaliyah, surprised by her maid. Then Edwin Polinoa comes. Cedric gets up to leave this conversation, and he says that he will go on his way since she has to attend the meeting right now. And he said earlier that if she needs anything, she has to feel free to say. Then Caleb also said that he wanted to attend the vessel meeting. Really, in the original story, Caleb waits until Cedric goes to sleep, but he has never attended a vessel meeting. But in this scene, Caleb wants to attend the meeting, and he says to Cedric that take me to the meeting in the forest. Caleb was allowed to be just Caleb, but not anymore. Caleb's earlier saved and took care of him, who was on the verge of dying, and even agreed to his unreasonable requests. So this time he can't avoid it forever. He also wants to protect her earlier as long as she stays in the palace. Cedric thinks, how did that woman give that much courage to Caleb in just a few days? Caleb is also going with Cedric, and he says to Aaliyah that he will be right back. Aaliyah thinks, will Caleb be okay? She really wants to be with him, but she can't go in the meeting room, so Cedric's there, so it's probably going to be okay. Then someone says, excuse me. Aaliyah was shocked by hearing this, then she said, here's hello, Miss Aaliyah, I am Olivia, and I will be serving you from today onwards. Aaliyah replied, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's nice to meet you too, Olivia, so I really do have my own, made earlier. Olivia wants Aaliyah to speak comfortably with her, but Elias says that it is the socket that she finds more comfortable in a way. And then she asks Olivia if the vessel meeting has already started or not. Oliver replied that the meeting has already started, and she hears that it also not took so long ago India was trace about Caleb. Then in the meeting room we see that in the meeting Marquise Renaud, the Babylon of Indigentia's Grand Duchy, plants his hands on the table and says that this place is the only Indigency's Grand Duchy in the present empire. This woman doesn't even know where Cedric, the next head of the family, comes from. This absolutely ridiculous. Then Cedric and really says that be careful with your words, Caleb, our Grand Duke is here and you dare mention me as a successor. Also that woman is person I fell in love with. I suggest you to choose the words wisely. Marquise was shocked by hearing this. The reason he held this meeting today was to inform everyone that he is getting married, but not to ask for their opinion. You are so angry, and even though he is planning to get married as soon as possible, he says everyone should keep this in mind. Then people sitting in the meeting were thinking light. He is the one who turned the whole palace into the ice when Caleb is missing. And even they don't know what he will do if the opposing. If we have to, we can just get rid of low life. They were thinking since there are many cases where a person remarriage for family reason after losing their wife, it won't affect the Grand Duke family either. All the person were thinking like that. Then suddenly Marquise has become so angry and he was thought like, damn it, how did he manage to find someone to marry so suddenly? He was confused that why Cedric is going to marry so suddenly like this, and he was thwarting like, if this continues then my plan will be completely rude. Marquise Renaud has planned that he is the only older brother of the previous Indigentia. He was like an uncle to Cedric and Caleb after the assassination case, although Marquise failed to become the second person in power. Cedric ending of receiving his curse, and the Renal started to think of his new plan. First of all, tell his to prevent Cedric from getting married. The ruler that said the curse can be transferred if anyone stay close to him, and even there was no evidence. People slowly started to distance themselves around Caleb. After all that things, he would falsely accuse Caleb and get rid of him, and as the vessel with the most power, he would influence the public opinion through the vessel below him. These was all possible because his daughter Gerald was Caleb's etiquette teacher. Means in this scene we get to know that the etiquette teacher who said to Caleb that he have to take a strict diet, she was nothing but the daughter of Renaud. And after that, under the leadership of Renaud, Cedric will be crowned the Grand Duke. Then, before said weaker verses, and if falls into eternal sleep, Renaud will trick Cedric into marrying his daughter, saying that it is in order to break his curse, which will make Renaud Babylon the perfect leader. But suddenly the appearance of women has won everything. Renaud is thinking that why that woman is not afraid that curse will move to her. Did she know about this rumor? If this thing goes in this way and ends up really going to the Sanctuary of Knowledge and finds out Caleb's past, it will really be the end for Renaud. Anyways, the woman hasn't adjusted to Nobel culture yet, so until the wedding she will be taking etiquette classes with Caleb. Renaud is shocked by hearing this, and he says, "Do you think Jerry graduated from a prestigious university to teach that low life? How can she take classes with the indigenous Archduke?" Then Caleb shouts and says, "Did you say just low life Marquise Babylon? I recommended that you choose your words carefully. This woman is my sister-in-law and will become Indigentia's Grand Duchess." Renaud was literally stunted, and he thought, what the hell is going on? He has never been like this before, so why is he so intimidating right now? Renaud is thinking about Caleb, whose behavior is fully changing, and Caleb says that this woman must be really special to you. Then Renaud thought, right, I want to be able to block the situation, and the bastards who are taking my bribes would be too dumb to do anything, so I will use this chance to change it. First of all, I need to kick that woman out of the palace. Then, I suddenly see changes, and Aaliyah surprisingly says that this bed is so soft. Then, the next day, Aaliyah wakes up and is literally shocked by looking at her own face in the mirror. How can she look this pretty after waking up? Even though she had a late night snack last night, why isn't her face swelling? Is it because she did really expensive skincare last night? She thinks that it is weird to say, but her eyes look like crafted gems. Then Olivia knocks on the door and asks Aaliyah, isn't she awake? Then she enters the room, and the area was shocked by looking at the breakfast because the breakfast was looking so luxurious. Then Olivia says to Aaliyah, please call me once you have finished your meal. Cedric is waiting for you. Then Olive asks her, do you have a hairstyle or dress that you would prefer? Aaliyah replies, I think it will be okay for me to wear anything. I don't need any help. I can get ready on my own. Then Olivia says, what do you mean, Miss Aaliyah? You are going to meet your husband. Please leave everything to me. Aaliyah literally looks excited. Then Olivia enters Cedric's room and says, my lord, I have brought Miss Aaliyah. When Aaliyah enters the room, Cedric says, I am sorry for calling you so early in the morning. Did you sleep well? When earlier, he replied, yeah, the bed was so big and comfortable. When I came to my senses, I realized I was rolling around when sleeping. When it's night to hear that the room was to your liking. Please wait a bit longer. Then suddenly, Cedric looked at the area, and he was surprised that she was looking so pretty and so beautiful. He just took a pause while looking at her, and then he said, until everything is sorted out in the meantime, you can rest on the sofa. Aaliyah noticed that when Cedric looked at her, he took a pause. At that time, Edwin Polonova introduced me inside by saying, my name is Admin Polonova, serving as a chief aide. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Aaliyah. Aaliyah replied, nice to meet you, Edwin. Then Cedric scolded him and said, no, I will talk to her about it. With a snap of his finger, he creates a barrier so that no one can hear their conversation. Then Cedric asks her if she has regained her memory, and even if he asks if she is talking about her lost memories, Aaliyah claims that she doesn't remember anything about them. Aaliyah thoughts that she told everyone that her memories are lost for now, but she can't do anything about it. Even if she looks suspicious, since it's true that she can't remember any other family, friends, or other people, and Cedric and Aaliyah both agreed to keep it a secret from other people in the palace just in case. She was wondering what words Cedric might think about her, since it will be easier to choose the date of the wedding if they communicate they made a contract yesterday only. Then Elena replied that Cedric wrote this much in one day. She was really shocked. Then Cedric says that he put the contract period for 3 years for now, but he is planning to make it so the time period of the contract will increase if his curse isn't broken in those 3 years. Aaliyah claims that it's a good idea, and she likes it. Then Cedric says, sir, that he will give her 3 billion gold every month, so she has to feel free to use it whenever and wherever she wants, but she has to remember to record her spending. And if Aaliyah needs more money, she has to ask Cedric, and the amount can be adjusted as well. Then Aaliyah got those papers, and she used to read in those papers that how many zeros are there in the amount below. But when she saw that it's a 3 billion, her voice literally cracked because she was totally surprised. Then she thinks that's more than enough to buy her own house in her previous life. Then she asks Cedric why he is giving her that much money. Isn't it because she keeps her mouth shut? Then Cedric replies that it's also included that she has to keep her mouth shut, and he said more specifically that it's a settlement for restrictions of freedom. Then he asks her to read the 6 lines of the second page. It's written that she must accompany by either Cedric or Caleb when going outside of the palace ground. She won't be able to go outside without Caleb and Cedric. It means she is restricted in the house if she wants to go outside. She has to ask either Caleb or Cedric about it. Cedric says that knights will be assigned to in order to ensure her safety, and all the servants around Aaliyah will be filled with his encourage, and those people will become his eyes and ears. Then Aaliyah thinks that Cedric is trying to say that he will always be watching her every move. Aaliyah is shocked that Cedric is putting restrictions on her, but she claims that she agrees with the restrictions and she is okay with the same. Cedric asks if she really feels okay with it. Then Aaliyah says that since she is not in the state where she can tell Cedric any information about her, she can't refuse it if he is doing it so he can trust her. She thinks that it's normal for him to be suspicious of Aaliyah considering the situation, and even she knows that a shield will be used for people LM. Cedric also asks her if there is anything else Aaliyah would like to include, and it will be considered if it's reasonable. Aaliyah thinks that she doesn't know what else to add because he made it so well. She was shocked at how Cedric wrote everything in just one day. According to the contract, she will be given 3 billion gold if Cedric breaks, and she will buy a house far away, and live comfortably alone. She was thinking all this and planning to go alone after Cedric's curse will be finished. Then she remembers about Caleb and how they spent time together. Then she says that she would like to add more things in the contract, which says that even after divorce, she wants to be able to visit the palace to see Caleb from time to time because she feels like her lost memories are coming back slowly whenever she is with Caleb. She thinks it might be because Caleb looks like someone that she used to know. Then Cedric agrees with the same, and he says that he will ask for Caleb's opinion and put it in one of the conditions. She thanks Cedric. Cedric will arrange the meeting later. Aaliyah enters her room and she clenches her face and thinks that it wasn't supposed to go like that. Her original plan was to take care of everything here, then leave quietly to her own house. What's wrong with her? She was thinking. She decides that she can continue to see Caleb. Then Olivia comes to the room and asks if there's something wrong with Aaliyah. Aaliyah says nothing, then she thinks that it's selfish, but won't it be alright if she came to see him once in a while? Or to attack him just a little so no one notices. It's very rarely she accepted the condition restriction for her freedom. Then Edwin asks Cedric if Aaliyah is so beautiful. He has never seen someone's eyes shine as bright as hers. There is something called jewel eyes where only a small number of fairies are born. He thinks Aaliyah might be the one. Then Edwin asks if it does mean Aaliyah is a fairy. Cedric asks where Edwin has ever seen a pure-blooded fairy. She's probably of mixed blood. Not only are her eyes beautiful, but her long, luscious hair seems to suit her perfectly as well. And don't forget about her pleasant voice. Cedric doesn't know Aaliyah's true identity, but he knows that she is a very bright person. And he also knows that she is a completely different person to him. Aaliyah was shocked of 3 billion. Only her voice cracked because she was surprised. Then Edwin was just remembering, did Cedric smile? Edwin asks her, did Cedric smile, didn't he? Admin is continuously asking him. He was like, oh my, I can't remember the last time he is so satisfied. Shut up, I will be on my way to the launch of payment. I made with Caleb organization of the documents I left on my desk. And Cedric says to Edwin that that's a punishment for saying nonsense, and Cedric walks away. Cedric thinks that the contract has been signed, and they just need to put the wedding plan into action. Now everything seems to be going smoothly, but what was that floral scent coming from that woman? I must have imagined it. I have already lost my ability to smell because of the curse. There is no way I can smell. In the next scene, Caleb requests to have dinner, but at that time while having dinner, Cedric says that Aaliyah earlier requested to be able to see Caleb regularly after his curse has been broken, and they get a divorce. Caleb was shocked by hearing this. Then he thought that she said she wanted to keep seeing him after the divorce. Does that mean she wants to be with him? Or maybe she didn't reply to him in the forest because it was too sudden. Caleb just needs to do something more, then he thinks she will stay here even after a divorce. Caleb's reply to Cedric is, that's all, I don't mind. Then Cedric says, let's discuss what we should do after the contract ends. Now that I think about it, does your etiquette class resume tomorrow with Aaliyah, Caleb? Caleb replied, yeah, I need to get back on track. Now I am going to do even better since Aaliyah's going to be there. Cedric thought, why doesn't Caleb look happy about it? I thought he would be over the moon since he will be taking classes with Aaliyah, whom he loves dearly. He was talking about Aaliyah with a big smile on his face earlier. This is complicated. It would be nice if he talked more. Then Aaliyah enters the room, and she was so happy by looking at the day with the sunlight coming on the palace. She says, I am going on a walk. One day like this, at first I thought I was not fit for the Grand Duke Palace, but it's a relief that everyone here is so kind. She was thinking it's only been a day since she came here and she hasn't met the vessels in questions. She asks, what kind of people are they? Later, Aaliyah says, how they speaks this, unbelievable. Aaliyah thinks, oh my god, I hope that doesn't happen. Well, it probably won't happen. They are thinking like that. I really need to recall her lost memories now. Discussing that, I am telling you it's true. It's been such a long time since I last you can search have a mail together that it sounds like they are talking about something unpleasant, so I better go back. It's still uncomfortable. They don't seem like they get along. Then why are they always so awkward? They were siblings. Exactly. They talk about Miss Aaliyah for a while then went back to eating quietly. It's hard to watch them like that. Aaliyah was shocked by hearing that Caleb and Cedric being awkward, the two who were shown as brothers who got along in the original story. But now that I think about it, earlier today during lunch, they should be eating together, meal by right now. Why do you eat your meal separately, Miss Aaliyah? Olivia asks her. Aaliyah replies earlier that the biggest reason was so that she could get closer to Olivia because she heard that they always have their meals together. She didn't want to disturb that precious bonding time. Aaliyah thinks, what happened? Is there something I don't know about? What do you think, guys? What will happen next? Will Aaliyah stay with Caleb after divorce? Let's see this on another part. By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. Thank you for watching.